This is perhaps one of my favorite chapters in the class, and primarily because it has to do with something that I really actually enjoy. I'm a little bit of a weirdo in the fact that I really like interviews. Interviews are one of my favorite things, and largely it's something that most people are very uncomfortable with, and so I really like this one to go through the different aspects of it to kind of let you know what to do to really kind of be successful. Um, so as you go through it, you can see that it's only 28 pages. It's a fairly short chapter. But in there is a lot of the things that you're really going to need to do to really polish off and make a really good impression. And so part of it is preparation. Actually, most of it's preparation, is understanding what you're going to say when you go in there. So if you're going to know, if to know what you're going to need to say, you're going to need to know what questions they might ask you. And frankly, I've been through hundreds of interviews, both on both sides of the table. Not that many, obviously, as an employee, but as an employer or an interviewer, I've been through a lot of them, and there's a variety of questions that are asked of candidates. Some good, some bad, but regardless, you kind of have to be prepared for a little bit of everything. So first things first, do your research. Find out where you're interviewing. Find out the size of the facility, how many employees are there, the history, how long it's been open, what the specialty of that particular business is. Research their website. Look at their Facebook pages, LinkedIn, social media, Instagram, whatever they might have. Gather as much information as possible. That way, when you're doing your interview, you can integrate some of those little factoids into that, and that'll be impressive to the person who is interviewing you. Practice makes perfect. Um, More than likely, these are going to be questions they're going to ask. First thing they usually ask is the big one. Tell me about yourself. And it's easy. You don't have to get fancy. Tell them, hey, I grew up here. This is where I went to school. This is my experience. This is my education. These are my professional interests. This is the training I've had. Those kind of things. If you want, you can include some hobbies or extracurricular activities. Personally, I usually try and avoid those, but if they ask, tell them what you do, providing it's not really weird. Um, Name your greatest strengths. Tell them what you are. One of the questions that everybody hates, absolutely everybody, I've never seen anybody say, I love this question, is when they say, what is your greatest weakness? Well, that's like the catch-22. You don't want to tell them, oh yeah, man, I'm never to work on time. You don't want to say something like that. You have to turn a negative into a positive, and they talk about in there about like, sometimes I have too much attention to detail, and it makes me work a little slow or something like that. It's something that I have to work on, but I'm really a perfectionist. So they're hearing a negative that can be turned into a positive that's already a positive. Don't tell them I've never been to work on time in 5 years. Yeah, don't tell them that. Just fix it. Um, why do you want to work for us is a very common question. If you can look in there, if you know a little bit more about their company, you can kind of tailor that question to, oh, I've noticed you have a really good training program, and that really interests me. You've been in business for a long time. You have a good reputation. Kind of pander to them a little bit. If they ask, why should I hire you, or what are some of the accomplishments at school or outside of school that might be of interest to us, go ahead and brag a little bit. I mean, that's what it's for. Don't be pompous, but they'll sometimes ask you about difficult situations and how you handled yourself. Where do you see yourself in 5 years? What would I say about you as an employer if you were working here in 5 years? Those kinds of things. And then sometimes they'll ask you flat out, what kind of compensation or salary are you seeking? Tell them the truth. Just tell them, hey, this is how much I need. Don't undercoat it and don't devalue yourself. Tell them what you need. Um, Also, be prepared with some of your own questions, like what is a typical workday like for this position? Who will I work with in this position, and who will I report to? Will I be receiving on-the-job training? What do I need to be successful in this position? Some things like that to show that you've put some forethought into this position before you ever even got there. Um, let's see here. So, what to wear, and first impressions count. So obviously you see the picture here. That's probably not how you're going to go to an interview. If you're a technician, largely you're going to be wearing, uh, their uniform, but it's not improper at all to go in a full suit if you're a gentleman, or a nice business suit if you're a woman, and be prepared, look professional. Even if you're not going to be wearing that, there's no such thing as overdressed. I mean, aside from wearing a tuxedo, that's a little ridiculous, but like, come come dressed well, come groomed well, have your hair done properly. If you have facial hair that's unkept, shave it. Don't wear too much makeup. Really kind of tone everything down. Make yourself look well. Make like you're really interested in getting this job. So I always love this one. Here are some tips for a successful first meeting. Relax. Well, if you're nervous, that's just an emotion. I know of very few people that go into interviews who are relaxed. Most people are nervous. There's no need to state in the interview, "Oh, I'm just so nervous." Yeah, first of all, everybody knows that. Just deal with it. And it's okay to be a little bit nervous. It's okay to exhibit a little bit of nervousness. That just indicates some stress. That indicates that you you find this interaction valuable, and you don't want to make a mistake, and that's okay. Take a deep breath before you go in. Smile. Uh, Shake hands well. Sit up straight. Um, Obviously, don't chew gum. Don't bring food with you. Um, One of the other things that I would highly suggest is, if you have a cell phone, leave it in your car, or however you came. If you didn't come, if you walked or rode a bike, turn it completely off, put it somewhere else. I don't even if I was interviewing somebody, I don't want to hear a phone ring. I don't want to hear a phone vibrate. I want you to be all in. If you're going for a job, that's an important thing. If your family knows that, just go, "Hey, look, between the hours of 3 and 5 today, I'm not going to be available. I'm going to be in a job interview. Don't call me. If you have an emergency, call somebody else. Figure it out. This is important to me, and I need to have all my attention focused on this particular endeavor, so I'm not going to be available." Good communication skills. Listen. One of the things that happens, I see it all the time of candidates, is they're so stressed to be in there that one of the interviewers will ask them a question and they will literally forget what the interviewer said, or they just don't hear it. If that's the case, just stop and ask again. "I'm sorry, could you repeat the question?" That's okay. Everybody knows nobody knows everybody knows you're a little bit nervous. The other big foible that I see all the time is people ramble. Answer the question, maybe add a little bit on, and then move on. Uh, some people, when they get nervous, you ask them a simple question: "Where do you see yourself in 5 years?" And 25 minutes later, they're still talking. Make it quick, a minute or two, and move on. That is fine. Use appropriate language. Be yourself, but choose your words carefully. Avoid slang, curse words, controversial topics, and speak clearly. Know when to get in, know when to get out. Be confident, but not cocky. Walk in like you're cool, but don't have that pompous attitude or air about you. Be honest about your skill levels. If you know it and you know it well, tell them, "I know this particular subject and I know it well." If they ask you about something don't know, to say, "Hey, you know what? That's not an area that I have any expertise in. More than willing to learn. Will be more than willing to do my best to benefit the company, but I don't particularly know that." Just be honest with them, because if they don't know now, they're going to know later if you're not honest with them. And ask for clarification. And smile once in a while. Look people in the eye and smile. Be personable. Um, don't underestimate soft skills. And this is obviously a huge part. That's actually one of the things that this whole entire class is about. Attitude, planning ability, work ethic, communication skills, time management, all these different things. The other question you need to be prepared for is, sometimes interviewers will ask you, if you give me 3 words that describe you. So come up with those words. Honestly, they don't have to necessarily represent you. They're just looking for you to talk. Say, "I am detail oriented, I am punctual, and I'm caring." Those are all fine. You can say, "I'm loving, I'm a good listener." Whatever it is, just come up with something. Be prepared for those questions. Um, in an interview, there are certain questions that they cannot ask you. There's actually title, I think it's Title 12 of the Civil Rights Act 1964 makes it illegal for an employer to discriminate on the basis of sex, color, religion, or nation of origin. Other equal employment opportunity laws prohibit discrimination based on disability, age, and arrest records. Um, so the guiding principle when an employer asks you a questionable question is, can the employer demonstrate a job-related necessity for asking that question as the interviewee? You should be aware of any questions that can potentially violate your rights, such as, like, are you married? What nationality are you? Are you a U.S. citizen? Do you go to church? Do you have children? Those aren't really things that they can ask you. I mean, and if they can ask you, there may be a situation, depending upon the job, they can ask you, but they will qualify it with, for this particular position, we have the right to ask you this particular question. I those the big five, the married, nationality, citizenship, church, or children. I don't know of a situation where they could really ask you those, but just in case. Um, they shouldn't ask you your age, your gender. There's a lot of things that they can't ask you, and quite frankly, the reason they can't ask you, because honestly, they're irrelevant to your ability to perform the task. After the interview, uh, do a little recap, walk out, sit in the car, think about what you did right, what you did wrong, or what you had, not necessarily that you did wrong, but what you could have improved upon. I mean, I don't think there's any interview I've ever had that I walked out and I went, oh my God, that was the best thing ever. That was perfect. You can always find something that you can improve upon. Reflect on it in the car quietly for a little bit and think about it, because you may get that job, you may not, but there may be another interview. So you really kind of have to look at what you did and what you didn't do. Um, so some of the questions you might want to ask yourself is, overall, how did you do? Uh, what questions threw me off my game? I mean, literally, I did not expect that question to come up. I mean, the really difficult ones, the big ones that people ask all the time, are right within this particular module. So you're gonna, and they're pretty common. So you're gonna have an option. You're gonna have the ability to kind of formulate those answers beforehand. All the questions you see in this module, make sure you have an answer off the top of your head for those, because those are very, very common questions. Um, Thank you note. Week later, a couple days later, nothing wrong with sending them a thank you note. Hey, thank you for the opportunity to interview with you. I really hope you consider me for the position, and make sure it's handwritten. Don't send an email. To send a handwritten one. Nothing generic either. Don't just copy or paste a generic thank you. It's impactful. It really is, especially if they're interviewing a lot of people. Um, don't just leave the job interview and hope somebody will call you. Follow up. I mean, don't be a stalker. Don't like call them 15 times, but follow up on them. A couple days later, call back and just go, hey, just looking to make sure that you're still considering me, or whatever you want to say there. And that's about it. That's and keep a good attitude. You know, sometimes you get jobs, sometimes you don't. And if you don't get a job, think of that interview as an opportunity to learn how to interview better. You know, it's not by accident that you interview well. It takes time. It takes multiple interviews to be able to do that. Just be yourself. Just keep calm. Do the best you can do with that, and it'll probably pan out for you. All right, so there's a little intro to that particular chapter. Go through, make sure you do the entire thing in the test at the end. I really enjoy that one. If you have any questions, there's also a discussion board on this one. There's a good opportunity for you to ask questions of other students if you've never been on an interview, and get some back and forth on that.